Welcome back to the Infinite Jungle. On today's episode, I have with me Cami Russo, the founder of the Defiant and author of The Infinite Machine. Cami, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Christine. It's an honor.
I'm so excited to chat with you about all things Ethereum and get a little bit of an update on what's happening with the Defiant. Before we get started with our conversation, for our listeners, here is a quick show disclaimer. I need to remind you to please refer to the disclaimer linked in the podcast show notes and note that none of the information in this podcast constitutes investment advice, an offer, recommendation, or solicitation by Galaxy Digital or any of its affiliates to buy or sell any securities. So Cami, how long has it been since you founded the Defiant?
I founded the Defiant. I started it as... It started out as just a Substack newsletter back in 2019. I had just left Bloomberg after 8 years there covering markets. And I left Bloomberg to finish writing The Infinite Machine. And I wanted to be a freelance writer and have this DeFi-focused newsletter on the side. I wanted to focus on DeFi because as I was following the Ethereum community around, I saw this kind of new movement of financial applications built on chain coming up, and nobody was really covering it at the time. Like in 2019, I think DeFi was just starting to become a trend. Like even the name DeFi was pretty new at the time. Like people were still calling it open finance. So I thought, this is what crypto was meant to be, like an actual on-chain financial system. And it was crazy to me that nobody was covering it. So I decided to just, start the newsletter. And then it really, took off. And I went all in on the Defiant and made it just, my full-time focus. And it's grown from there, from, just the newsletter to today we have 2 newsletters, paid and free, weekly podcast, our video, like YouTube channel, and obviously our website with our daily news stories. We are a 13-person team. I'm really proud of what we've built. I think we have a very unique brand where we specialize in this one niche, which is DeFi, but also like more broadly, just like the on-chain space of crypto. And we also do it in a way that's independent. We're not owned by any external entity. We are bootstrapped, so we don't have external financing. I did raise $2 million to build what I wanted to become the DeFi Bloomberg terminal. Coming from Bloomberg, I have like a big kind of data background, but I wasn't able to get that product like beyond the MVP phase, so I had to kind of sunset that, but it was a sunshine for me.
But you must be thinking about new products for the Defiant. And as you were kind of sharing the backstory of the Defiant, which is such an incredible story, what a feat that the Defiant has become such a brand in the crypto industry to be reckoned with. You've grown the team to 13 people. Sure, the data arm, that plan didn't work out, but what are some of the other products and milestones you're looking forward to in terms of growing the Defiant multimedia kind of content platform?
Yeah, so what I learned from living the ups and downs in the industry, and from also trying to raise VC I was raising for like a year, and it was just like a soul crushing process. So I realized, I'm really comfortable with the Defiant being self-sustainable and not relying on anyone else. I love that about our business, and I think the way that we've achieved that is because we provide added value to a very specific audience. So, with being a bootstrapped company, it's important to stay focused and not try to do too much that you dilute yourself. So what I want to keep doing is just becoming the best that we can at DeFi and on-chain crypto, kind of the more crypto native side of crypto. So I think, we can elevate the quality of all our content across the board, across video and print. And on kind of the product side, we want to take our crypto nativeness to the product level. So we started by having a partnership with Filecoin, where we're storing all of our archive stories on Filecoin. So all of our stories will be on chain, and we'll keep doing that every month. So that archive will continue growing, so that whatever happens to the Defiant, all of our content will continue being on chain. And if something happens that we're censored or shut down or whatever, our content is not lost. So that's the first step, but I obviously want to become more Web3 native. So we've enabled Wallet Connect on the website, but it's not doing anything now. But the plan this year is to make it more useful. So users who connect with their wallet will be able to see more tailored content. We have this like NFT design for subscribers that we haven't really rolled out that we want to do. So yeah, the plan this year is to, on the content side, really kind of take our niche focus to the next level, and on the product side, become even more crypto native.
That's very exciting. And I have to comment that there has been kind of revolutionary changes in the journalism industry because of the rise of Web 2 technologies like Substack, giving journalists and writers the ability to own their own content. But like you said, crypto technology can take that one step further. I truly do think that there are innovations using blockchain that could change the game for publishing, change the game for content creators like you and I.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that would be further down the line with the Defiant. Like I said, we need to kind of pick our battles and choose where to focus. But I think crypto tools for media are really underexplored. Like, I don't think anyone's really innovated very much in that space at all. I think like things as obvious as micropayments are actually possible now. Like, I think many companies tried to make micropayments work for media when the technology wasn't there yet. But now we do have, fast, cheap transactions for crypto. So, I think that's kind of one step where we can have a more sustainable business model for media that doesn't necessarily involve ads and paywalls that I think, I have proven to be lacking and not, not very sustainable. So I think it's one thing to try.
Yeah, 100%. And that is on the product side. I want to ask also about the way you see content on the Defiant evolving. Like you said, the focus is really on DeFi and on-chain activities and apps. One of the trends I've been seeing with DeFi is this rise in importance and also, of course, value of RWAs, tokenization, kind of the intersection between traditional finance and decentralized finance, of banks launching their own L2s, of more traditional finance assets potentially coming on chain. Is the Defiant going to be covering all of that as well? Is that a trend in that you see can consider as under the DeFi umbrella?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's DeFi, but it's all on-chain activity, and I think tokenization, RWA, all of that is a huge part of it. So are stable coins, and I think you're right. I think that's one of the most interesting developments happening in DeFi right now. I think a lot of innovation in DeFi has been overshadowed by like meme coins and like AI agents and all this. But I think we've seen real use cases, like significant use cases evolving under kind of maybe that have been undercovered because of all these kind of like shiny new, tokens. But I think we'll see them come to fruition this year, hopefully. I think it'll be a really exciting year for DeFi.
Were there any other major like takeaways or narratives or use cases that you think are going to be really game changing this year in 2025 for the crypto industry, especially coming out of a recent crypto conference that you were at, ETHDenver? What was the conversation? What were the main conversations there and narratives that you think really kind of outshined others that you heard about at the conference?
Well, I think the conferences are different for each person because we all have, such different paths in kind of the conference itself. Because of kind of my network and what I was doing, a lot of my conversations were centered on Ethereum. And I think that's Ethereum is in such an interesting place right now. And that was a big theme at ETHDenver, kind of what's next. Like, obviously, the price is hard to ignore. Like, why is it underperforming the way that it has? All the changes at the Ethereum Foundation. I think that was a big focus. Also at ETHDenver, there was this just meta conversation about crypto conferences themselves. And I think there was a consensus that, I don't know, like that something needs to change because we see all these big conferences end up being empty because like everyone is going to the side events and those end up, they become the focus for everyone conglomerating in one city, which is great. But then like the organizers who put the whole thing together are the big losers of the event. So I'm not sure what the best way to fix that is. But I think that was, it's becoming clearer and clearer. Like whenever you go to a crypto conference, the main event is empty and then everyone is just going to the side events. I don't know, many times I talk to someone and I tell them, let's meet at the main venue. They're like, oh no, I don't even have a ticket. And so like people don't even bother getting a ticket to these events anymore. So I don't know, that's an interesting theme. I don't know like what can come next, like what formats can come next. But I think, there's also room to innovate there.
Yeah, I also heard quite a bit of criticism specifically at ETHDenver for creating a platform where other blockchains outside of Ethereum and those conversations could happen. One of the main pushbacks was around allowing a speaker from the Solana ecosystem, Max Resnick, who used to be an Ethereum contributor, I should say, Ethereum contributor, to discuss why he joined the Solana ecosystem, and many people calling for ETHDenver to rebrand its conference as just Crypto Denver. What was your kind of take on all of that backlash? Do you think that it was warranted, or do you think that, again, because of the price, because of all these other dynamics around Ethereum in quote-unquote wartime mode, it's caused just a lot more sensitivity among its attendees?
I mean, I definitely see where they're coming from. Like, I've been to a couple of ETHDenvers, and I remember early on, I think like the first one I went to was maybe 2019 or 2018 or 2019, and that at that time it was, I don't know if you went to ETHDenver at kind of those
in 2019
in those
I did
days.
Yeah, during the Bufficorn years.
But so it was much more kind of Ethereum focused. And I think that's evolved because the conference has become a lot bigger. So it's just made more room for other chains and other assets. And I think that's fair, but maybe their branding or just like their purpose should be clearer, that, because like there's like Ethereum is in the name of the conference. So like you would expect them to be more like just like solely like an Ethereum conference. But obviously, that has shifted. So maybe it's about them kind of becoming more clear, just like people having a better idea on what to expect when they go to ETHDenver. That it's not just like an Ethereum conference, but more like a broader, just crypto conference. But I think it was true. Like all the sponsors were like competing layer ones, and yeah, the panels were. You had like everything. Like there was no Ethereum focus at all. And I think like the theme was supposed to be regen finance. That's like a contrast or like a counterpoint to degen. So it's supposed to be like.
Oh, I didn't know this. I didn't know that was one of the focuses.
Yes, yeah. So see, it's because like it was like supposed to be regen, but I didn't see that reflected anywhere, So I see where that criticism is coming from, but I also see kind of from the organizer's point of view, you're allowed to change and evolve and, become bigger and include other narratives. I think that's fine, but just like make it clear that that's kind of what the new era or like the new conference or focus is about.
Yeah. I mean, I 100% see that during, 2018, 2019, the activity happening on Ethereum really was most of the DeFi activity. And over the years, not only has the ecosystem grown more, but also Ethereum itself has started to pursue a rollup-centric roadmap, which means just opening up its entire value to other protocols in a very permissionless manner. And I didn't go to the conference, but I had suspected that the vibes would be a little bit negative at the conference because of all that's going on. Given what you said, though, I mean, does this kind of hint at an opportunity for the Defiant to step in and fill a need, perhaps, for a more Ethereum-focused yearly annual event?
I would love to have a Defiant event, a Defiant conference. But I'm super scared of doing it.
It is another beast.
Yeah. Like, I've done meetups and that's fine and manageable, but we used to have like a monthly meetup when we had our physical office space here, which I was just telling you we want to like reopen now. So that's, part of the plan this year. But yeah, like, and that was already stressful. So I can't imagine a full-blown conference. I know like it's a whole separate business that I'd have to set up, but there's a huge opportunity. Like, yeah, it's definitely something that I'd want to do, but maybe, I don't know, like a 2026 project.
Here I am just like pouring more work onto your shoulders. No. You are already doing so much. And I really do respect and value the Defiant brand and the content that you guys put out. I want to talk now a little bit more about your personal views, putting the Defiant aside. You have in a very detailed manner chronicled, the origin story of Ethereum in your book, the Infinite Machine. And right now, Ethereum is undergoing a bit of an identity crisis. You've been covering Ethereum for years, and you have been very outspoken in the past as well about the importance of maintaining cypherpunk values of decentralization, transparency. When you look at all of the controversy around what Ethereum is supposed to be, what Ethereum's North Star is, what has been your take on the most recent kind of crisis that the Ethereum community has undergone in terms of Ethereum's value proposition and what the technology of Ethereum is supposed to be?
I think that Ethereum has been very successful in achieving scalability. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that was like a really important feat, that it was a major challenge for Ethereum since day one of mainnet. Like Vitalik and the devs were thinking about how to scale Ethereum from like the time that they launched the chain, like thinking about sharding and like all the early versions of like proof of stake Casper and like all these different roadmaps that were explored until finally they landed with their rollup-centric roadmap with layer twos. And that's been successful in scaling Ethereum. So right now, like you said, Ethereum has opened itself up in a permissionless way to dozens of chains at this point. I don't know, I can't keep track. But with very sophisticated, cryptography and mechanisms that, allow for on-chain transactions to happen in a fast and cheap way. We can discuss, how decentralized these rollups are. I think at this point, not many are very decentralized, but the plan is that eventually they will be. And like covering Ethereum, they take time, but they actually do deliver. Like they do what they say they're gonna do. Like
the developers.
Like they. The merge is a great example. They executed this perfectly, change from proof of work to proof of stake, just like this huge blockchain with billions of dollars transacting, and they were able to do it. So I think that's a testament to just like the capacity of Ethereum to evolve and deliver on what they set out to do. And I think with, like the Ethereum community, if their goal and plan is to have layer twos be more decentralized, and especially I think that the major pain point right now is the fragmentation. If they are working on layer twos to be more interconnected, they will achieve that. I believe that, but I think that right now we're in this difficult phase where we're seeing kind of the first results of the layer two ecosystem, where Ethereum does scale. We have all these applications happening with many thousands, hundreds of thousands of users per month. And, like there is the capacity of having mainstream dApps finally on Ethereum on layer twos. But I think two major problems. One, UX is horrible. Like using layer twos, it's terrible. Like using bridges, paying, like confirming transactions, paying for gas, having different gas tokens. There's like no way. Like I've been using crypto for many years, and I can't do it. Like I don't have the patience for it. A non-crypto user, like a mainstream user, is not going to put up with it. So that's one. And then two, which I think maybe this is the most, the one that's kind of weighing on markets more, is that I don't think there's a clear way for all of the activity that's happening on Ethereum layer 2s to reflect on Ethereum layer 1. The explanation I get when I ask is that eventually all of that activity happening will mean more confirmations on Ethereum mainnet, which means that more ETH will be burned and ETH will become deflationary again, and that will impact price. Okay, but it's still, like very much speculative. It's like, if this happens, and like, how much activity do we need for that, for ETH to finally start reflecting all the activity that's happening in its ecosystem. So I don't know, like ETH, many in the Ethereum community get offended and triggered when people say that layer 2s are parasitic, because how can they be parasitic if they're allowing Ethereum to scale and bringing all this activity? But I do see that argument, all this activity is happening, but it's happening on layer 2s, and layer 2s are getting those fees, and nothing is coming back to Ethereum.
And developers are trying to ship upgrades that will make it so that even less value comes to the base layer through PeerDAS, through the Pectra upgrade.
Yep.
They're going to be doubling blob capacity.
For value to reflect on Ethereum again, there should be more focus on some sort of tax or some mechanism that layer 2s are paying for the right to use Ethereum security, which is it's a huge right. Like, they're getting a huge benefit, but I don't know if they're paying for it or paying enough for it. And I think the market, I think that's what the market is most nervous about, because like layer 2 interoperability, okay, like that can be solved, and there's like intent and like all these things are happening, but I don't see a clear path for all the value that's being transacted in Ethereum layer 2s to be reflected in Ethereum layer 1. It's all just like super speculative to me.
Yeah, I've also, whenever I ask that question to developers or researchers, they start to talk about based rollups and native rollups, of rollups that are using the validator set of Ethereum, consistently posting blobs to Ethereum every single block. But I don't see, what I don't really understand about that vision is why a layer 2 would want to become based. There are, of course, interoperability benefits, but in terms of the sacrifices that an L2 sequencer would have to make in terms of fees, in terms of its flexibility and be able to control how it approaches MEV, there are just so many trade-offs that I see with based/native rollups. And it's gotten me thinking to the point where I foresee that the value of the protocols built on top of Ethereum will always be more lucrative, always be more valuable than the base layer of Ethereum. And that ETH, the asset, is really just the kind of fuel, the gas, that powers Ethereum, the open source software. And
as it was meant to be.
As it was meant to be, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's funny because it doesn't, this vision does not make ETH a good asset to invest in. However, it is a critical infrastructure that creates so much value to invest in. So like so much L2s to invest in, so many apps to invest in, so many, it's a different value because the value doesn't accrue to the token.
Yeah.
It's the software, and there's a Harvard study that shows that open source software, programming languages and whatnot, generally are 3.5 times undervalued than all of the products and the for-profit products that are built on top of these.
Maybe that's where Ethereum, the asset, is going to trend to.
That's what I was thinking of. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is not a platform. Very much the value accrues to the token, the narrative around Bitcoin as sound money. But I don't think that same narrative applies to Ethereum. I think Ethereum is not trying to build sound money. The Ethereum developers are trying to build a permissionless, decentralized, censorship-resistant platform.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. However, I know it's very, the vision that a lot of Ethereum developers and researchers have is the opposite. Like ultrasound money meme, and Justin Drake has this, this idea that Ethereum is even better at being digital gold than Bitcoin, and it's because of this vision that activity on Ethereum should reflect on the ETH price. And I think that was the case when most of activity was happening on mainnet. But the way that the layer 2 ecosystem was planned hasn't allowed that to happen, has taken away the value from ETH. So maybe you're right that in the future, as if things continue to progress this way, I totally see that outcome, that Ethereum just becomes open source software, a platform, and it's just like a different risk profile. Like, not everything has to be 100x investment. Like, you can just become an ETH staker get 5% APY, and that's great. And you have a lower risk profile. You can just park your money there, maybe get a liquid staking token and do use that capital somewhere else. But yeah, I think that's fine. And yeah, like those who were able to invest in ETH early on, those made the many multiple times of gains because of what the platform has become. But maybe it's developed to a point where, okay, like those gains are just not there anymore. So we'll see. I think unless there is some structural change to the architecture of how layer 2s work, yeah, I don't see that changing. I'm like, same thing, like whenever I ask people, how will this translate to Ethereum mainnet, like all the answers are just like very kind of in the future, like activity and yeah, like based rollups. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced.
Has the rise of decentralized finance in the form, of course, of meme coins, but also some other kind of developments related to decentralized finance on other ecosystems, like primarily Solana, but there are other, up and coming competitors. Do you have any thoughts about where you see the competition going between different chains? Of course, Bitcoin too, I guess, to some degree, is starting to innovate on the front of becoming more programmable. But do you have any views on kind of the explosion in innovation that we're going to see in DeFi, perhaps not on Ethereum and on other chains?
So I think competition for the first time has become a theme and like intense for Ethereum. Yeah. I think like all this soul searching and turmoil at the EF is a result of the competition they're seeing. Everyone's like, what? Like,
That's right.
Yeah, it's like, what? Like, things are not happening on Ethereum and, like kind of grappling with this new reality. And obviously the kind of the main competitor that's risen in the past year or two has been Solana. And I think it took most by surprise. Like after FTX, most people thought Solana was done, it was dead. And it's been really surprising and just like remarkable to see it kind of rise from the ashes in the way that it has. And I think it's kind of solidified itself as like the third blockchain, like the third main, horse in the race or whatever. So I still see innovation coming from Solana, because just a lot of network effects help and they make a huge difference. And I think Solana has that now.
Okay.
There are there's a lot of volume there. There's liquidity. There's developers. Users are there. So yeah, like I think meme coins have fizzled out, but as we've seen on Ethereum, these narratives come and go. And I think, there's definitely space for more DeFi or like economic activity happening on Solana for sure. I mean, they have like all everything that it takes. They have it. They have the developers again. Like they have the money, developers, users. They just need to come up with something else that's exciting. And
you're optimistic that they will.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's like it's the internet, it's like people building permissionlessly. They will, like people will come up with something fun and exciting. And then like for other ecosystems, I'm not sure. Like I think there are I haven't seen one that's like, okay, like this is like the next Solana. I think like the Move ecosystem is interesting. Sui, Aptos, like now Movement. I know that people are giving Movement a lot of flack, but I don't know. Like I feel like whenever there's a new airdrop, people like to hate on that project for some reason. Like now people hate airdrops. It used to be good to have free money, but like the sentiment has shifted. But yeah, I think the movement ecosystem is interesting. I've spoken with like the Aptos and Sui founders, and I think they have just like this very user-centric take that's different from other chains, like that are just more kind of tech centric, but because they come from Facebook or like Meta, they just have that mentality, and I think maybe interesting things can come from that. We'll see. I don't know. I think Near is interesting too. They have their whole like
The AI angle.
AI angle, which now is like the thing. So maybe that can be an interesting one to watch as well. But yeah, like no. Yeah, nothing like super kind of clear that I say like, okay, like this is definitely like the thing.
Okay.
What about you? Like, what do you think?
I am cautious about the optimism around Solana and the activity coming out of the Solana ecosystem. I think that MEV remains a major problem on Solana that is skewing usage of the chain. And I worry that continued not addressing the MEV problem will continue to kind of skew usage of the chain and prevent real users from actually using the chain and being able to launch apps that people want to use outside of course, just the use case of speculation. However, I agree with you that Solana, since the FTX crash, its comeback has been quite incredible to see. I am very excited to see Bitcoin as a platform, that narrative, become more prominent. I'm very excited to see how that impacts Bitcoin core protocol development. If we are going to see potentially another soft fork on Bitcoin. Those don't, I mean, Ethereum upgrades, once every year, but Bitcoin upgrades are far and few between. I'm definitely keeping an eye on that. And I agree with you about the move language. I think it is very exciting to see innovation in smart contract programming languages, and among the ones that of course, aside from Solidity and all the tooling related to it, I think Move is the second kind of competitor in terms of a smart contract programming language that could actually be a lot safer and easier for Web 2 developers to use. So I echo a lot of what you said.
And I'm excited too for Bitcoin DeFi as well. Yeah, I think super interesting narrative. I mean, for me, it's like Bitcoin and Ethereum have like they have their place. It's like it'll be very hard to dethrone them, and I think it makes sense that Bitcoin will have a more active, ecosystem around it, and there's so much innovation happening in that space with like maybe OpCat being introduced, and like there's like BitVM if that it doesn't work out. So like Bitcoin is definitely becoming more programmable, and I think Bitcoiners are becoming more excited about it. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's like subjective from like what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing a lot less kind of criticism on like innovation happening on Bitcoin. Like before, it used to be like like taboo. Like what?
It
like
was.
a token on Bitcoin? What? But like now it's like super. It's like more accepted, and there's this like whole rise of Bitcoin layer 2s. So yeah, I think I think that's definitely that's gonna be one of the main DeFi ecosystems together with Ethereum and whatever else comes up on Solana.
Yeah, I have to shout out the Taproot Wizards and Udi in the Bitcoin community for spearheading that kind of cultural shift. I'm sure there were others involved, but those are just two names that kind of pop into mind. I also kind of maintain that if the Bitcoin community does lean in harder to the Bitcoin as a platform narrative, they too will have to struggle with, is Bitcoin sound money or gas? And I maintain that an asset is one or the other. that you can't. There's fundamental kind of differences and what do you call it? Like clashes in trying to be both at the same time. And I do think that Ethereum should just lean very hard into being gas, like make ETH very spendable, very cheap, and make Bitcoin very sound. I mean, I think you can have edge use cases for both, where Bitcoin, maybe for some very like unique DeFi use cases, is spent as fees to interact with an app, and for Ethereum, in some very edge cases, like is held as this store of value. But primarily, by and large, I maintain that you can really only do one.
Okay, so you don't think that there can be a real, like competitive Bitcoin DeFi ecosystem?
No.
Like it should be just, just like stick to digital gold.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane, damn it. No, but I say it out of the kindness of my heart in illustrating that is the better way to go in terms of it. Because if Bitcoin starts to become more like gas, the value of Bitcoin, I think, will face the same fate as ETH.
Right. Yeah.
And it just goes back to, is your technology a platform, or is it really just a tech stack that's going to be powering one single asset? I mean, I don't know. I think there's just different goals and priorities for each of the core development communities to pursue. It's very different what Bitcoin developers are pursuing versus Ethereum developers. And I don't think they should muddy that.
It's an interesting take, but at the same time, like, it just feels like it's so inefficient to have that much value locked in the Bitcoin blockchain and not be used. So it's like, at some point, people are just going to naturally want to start developing applications to put that capital to work. Just like, use Bitcoin as collateral, being able to, take out loans or like issue stable coins with Bitcoin collateral, like the same things that already happen on Ethereum happen on Bitcoin, because like I think it's a natural progression of just like having all that money locked that will develop into more sophisticated use cases. And yeah, I think that's kind of where demand has been with like wrapped Bitcoin and all the, trying to bridge Bitcoin to other chains. So I think like, why not just like try to keep it like diminish risk for Bitcoiners and just have something in-house that can allow them to, use their Bitcoin more efficiently. But yeah, I agree that, down the line, that may cause the same problems that Ethereum is seeing now. That's super interesting. We'll see. I mean, we have a long ways before that happens.
Yeah, I mean, developers will continue to ideate. It is definitely my stance now. I don't think that Bitcoin can fundamentally change how it works as a platform to be as programmable as Ethereum. But I do think representations of the Bitcoin asset and all of the value locked in Bitcoin there will naturally, like you said, be people that will use it as collateral, will try and extend its use. But again, like you said, it comes with more risk because it's not happening natively within that ecosystem, or at least the protocol can't support it. One very final question for you, Cami.
Yeah.
Because we mentioned it just throughout the show a couple times. You mentioned that the Ethereum Foundation has undergone several recent changes. 2 new co-executive directors, funding Etherealize, the BD marketing, a couple new research team leads, ramping up its Twitter presence, Ethereum Foundation Twitter handle, or Ethereum at Ethereum Twitter handle. Lots of changes. Do you find those changes, in your view, do you think they're positive changes? And are there any changes that you'd like to see from the Ethereum Foundation that you haven't seen yet?
I think it's positive that they are listening to the Ethereum community and making changes. I like this kind of like working group of different kind of builders and developers to get their opinions heard. I think that's definitely positive. I'm not sure about kind of the co-leadership. I don't know if that works, but it's very Ethereum, to do things that way. So maybe it's just like fitting for Ethereum to be led that way. What I would love to see from the EF is more transparency. I think that's been
Yes.
the big missing piece in all of these changes. Have been all about kind of like moving people around. But like, so my experience when I wrote the Infinite Machine is I reached out to the EF and to Aya for an interview. And yeah, I just wanted more clarity on like, how is it run? Like your finances, like can I see some, like financial statements? How much money do you hold? Like, just like basic things, which, I mean, it's Ethereum. It's like it's an open blockchain. So to me, it was like obvious that the foundation should be treated in the same way. But I didn't get that at all. Like it was really hard for me to get information about their financials, about kind of their board composition and like how decisions are made. It's just like very opaque. And I think it still is. So I was, disappointed that I didn't see any changes or announcements in having the EF become more transparent, provide financial statements, provide more clarity on the board structure, on how voting happens. I think like we've seen like Vitalik make some comments as response to tweets, but it's something it's like Ethereum is growing up, so I think it should start to provide more formal updates on kind of this major institution within its ecosystem. So that's something that I was a little disappointed that I missed.
I agree. I hope it's still coming.
Yeah.
I hope it's still coming because I will remind listeners, the Ethereum Foundation is a registered nonprofit organization. Even the standard of transparency and accountability that is held for traditional nonprofit organizations, I think, is still higher than the standards that have been met so far from the organization itself. I agree. When I was a reporter at CoinDesk in 2018, it was frequently, the Ethereum Foundation was frequently talked about amongst my fellow journalists as a black box.
And yeah, I got that sense when I was interviewing Aya as well, just like, I don't know. I was surprised. Like, I thought they would be a lot more open because it's Ethereum. So, yeah, I think, like all the changes they have made make me think that they're heading in that direction. So I'm still optimistic. We'll see that.
Well, thank you so much, Cami, for this conversation. I really appreciate the time and for you coming on the show.
Yeah, no, I loved it. This was really fun. And thank you so much for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. Cami and I, are signing off from the concrete jungle that is New York City. We hope that you learned something new about Ethereum from today's show. In your explorations of the infinite jungle that is Ethereum, stay safe out there.